Hi, I'm going to show you how to assemble your Mimic robot arm from your kit. It includes all the parts you need, including the 3D printed parts. It has the base bottom, the knob coupler, the shoulder, the upper arm, the forearm, a hand, and a finger. It also includes 5 feedback servos and the associated servo horns and hardware, an Arduino Nano, a Nano Shield, a 5-volt power adapter, a rotary encoder with its associated knob, an RGB LED, a piezo buzzer, and it also has 15 additional servo screws, 2 foam grippers, 2 cable restraints, and 8 rubber feet. You're also going to need a precision screwdriver. I recommend one with a magnetic tip. We'll start by assembling the color knob. You'll need the rotary encoder, its knob, the RGB LED, and the knob coupler. With all the 3D printed parts, you'll need to inspect and prepare them by removing any stray artifacts or burrs. You can do this with the screwdriver or with a hobby knife. Make sure you pre-fit all your pieces to make sure they fit well. First, remove the bolt off your rotary encoder. You'll notice on the encoder there are 2 square bulges on either side. In your knob coupler, you'll notice slots for those square bulges that fit. Align the rotary encoder to fit those bulges inside those slots. It may take a few times fitting it to get it to slide in all the way. When you've done it, you should see some threads sticking out the top of the knob coupler. Screw the bolt back on and hand tighten it. Press your knob onto the rotary encoder. If done correctly, you should be able to push on the knob and hear a clicking sound on the rotary encoder. Next, slide the RGB LED in the knob coupler's slot. When sliding it in, try not to push on the cable. Instead, use your fingernail and push the RGB LED circuit board deep into the slot. You may need to do this a couple of times, cutting out some material with a hobby knife in order to make room. When done correctly, the RGB LED will slightly extend beyond the top and bottom or be flush with it. If you need to remove it for any reason, you can use the tip of your screwdriver to push it out from the top. Next, you'll need your light knob that you just assembled and 2 servo screws. The light knob has 2 mounting points. One is square and the other is rounded. You want the square side to be facing up. Positioning the light knob can be a little bit tricky, so I'll show the easiest way this can be done. Insert the light knob into its hole with the square mounting point face up. Then rotate the light knob into place. You will need to angle the light knob a little bit so that the square mounting point fits into place while the rounded mounting point is able to rotate upwards and then fit into place. Make sure the light knob is flush to the base and then attach it with the 2 screws. Ensure it's firmly secured to the base by pushing on the button and rotating the knob. Next, you'll need a shoulder part, a servo, 3 servo screws, a small screw, and a 2-sided servo horn. When fitting this servo into place, it's helpful to first Angle the bottom part of the servo into its position, and then snap the top part of the servo into place. Insert the 2 servo screws to mount it into place. Test fit the shoulder to make sure there's no gaps and that it can easily rotate. Next, connect the servo horn and rotate the servo all the way clockwise until it can no longer move. Place the shoulder on the servo and align the knob on the shoulder to the knob on the base. Attach the servo horn. Check for any play between the shoulder and the servo horn. If there is, insert a screw in the designated spot to ensure that it stays tight. Insert the mounting screw and verify that you have full rotation, about 180 degrees. Next, you'll need the forearm, the upper arm, and the 2 foam cable restraints. Attach the cable restraint flush with the top of the part and aligned with the end of the servo bracket. Next, you'll need the upper arm, a servo, 3 servo screws, the small screw, and the one-sided servo horn. You can tell the upper arm apart from the forearm because it's slightly bigger than the forearm. You want the slightly bigger part. To ensure a smooth fitting hinge, you'll need to inspect the shoulder for any burrs or stray artifacts around the knob. Also, the socket on the upper arm needs to be inspected as well and cleaned if needed. Test fit the parts together and move them back and forth until it creates a smooth joint action. Flip the part around and repeat the step. This will help ensure the parts fit without too much friction. Attach the servo with the cables facing towards the hole in the shoulder. Then, mount the servo with the servo screws. Attach the servo horn to the servo and this time rotate it counterclockwise. Remove it if you need to and reattach it to rotate it until it stops moving. Attach the upper arm by first connecting one side to the shoulder and then stretching the other side over the servo. Ensure the part can rotate freely to its extents. When securing the servo horn, you'll notice there are 2 different servo horn screw holes. You'll only need to use one. This is because there are 2 different size servo horns that you may get in your kit, a large one or small. If the large one, use the upper screw hole. The small one, use the lower one. We'll be using the large one, so I'll put the screw in the upper hole. Attach the servo horn with the small screw and secure it using a servo screw in the appropriate hole. Make sure you have full range of your part. Verify that the servo can rotate to both ends of the end stops. Next, you'll need the forearm part, a servo, 3 servo screws, the small screw, and the one-sided servo horn. We're going to clean and test fit the part just like we did last time by attaching the part and moving it back and forth on both sides to make a smooth joint. Attach the servo just like we did before. Attach the servo screws and use the servo horn to rotate the servo counterclockwise to its extent until it can't move anymore. Attach your part and make sure it rotates just like you did before. Move the part all the way down and then attach your servo horn. Use the small servo horn screw and secure the servo horn with the servo screw in the appropriate hole. Verify that you have full range of motion on your servo. Next, for the hand, you'll need the hand part, a servo, 3 servo screws, the small screw, and the one-sided servo horn. This is put together the same way as the other two parts you've done so far. If you find you don't achieve the full range of servo motion, hitting the end stops like in this example, you'll need to remove your screws and try again. Sometimes the servo horn can be difficult to remove. An easy way to do so is to stretch the arm and the horn will pop right off. You can then reposition the servo by rotating it counterclockwise all the way to the end, rotate the part all the way down, reattach the horn, and try again. Once you get the full range of motion all the way to the end stops, you're good to go. Next, you'll need the finger part, servo, 3 servo screws, the small screw, and the one-sided servo horn. Attach the servo to the hand and affix it with the screws. Positioning this servo is a little different than the others. Rotate it all the way to the end, clockwise this time. Then, when you reach the end, rotate it back about 45 degrees. When attaching the finger, first place it over the servo and then stretch the bottom part underneath the servo until it clicks into place and you get the full motion. Attach the servo horn horizontally, making sure that the fingers are parallel to each other. Then, attach the required screws. Ensure that you get full range of motion from your finger. Next, you'll need the 2 foam grippers. Attach each gripper to the end of the finger and the hand. Next, we will be routing all the cables down the arm and into the base. To begin, first we need to pull all the cables out the top of the arm. Then, finding the cables furthest away from the base of the arm, begin with the yellow feedback cable. Slide it into the groove and underneath the foam cable restraint. Finally, slide it into the hole on the shoulder. Next, do the same thing with the servo's ribbon cable. Repeat the same steps again for the next furthest servo away, beginning with the feedback servo and then with the servo's ribbon cable. Sometimes using the screwdriver can help push the cables past the foam cable restraints. When all wires are threaded through, take up the extra slack and separate the wires into two groups. The servo wires on one side and the color knob wires on the other. Next, you'll need the Arduino Nano, the Nano Shield, and 4 servo screws. Mount the Nano in the Nano Shield. Next, align the servo wires in a clump against the base of the arm, in between the back 2 mounting holes. With your finger, push it deep into the base to make room for the circuit board. Then, angle the circuit board into position with the USB and power port first into its proper holes, and then rock the back part into position. You may need to test fit the circuit board into the base ahead of time, removing any burrs to make sure it fits correctly. Then attach the 4 screws. Separate the servo ribbon cables from the feedback wires and align the ribbon cables and feedback wires by height. Take the shortest one and insert it into slot 4 with the orange part of the ribbon cable facing towards the Arduino or the center of the circuit board. Then repeat the same steps with the second shortest ribbon cable into slot 5. Do this for all the servo ribbon cables. Refer to the wiring diagram for proper wiring to the Nano Shield. Next, align the feedback wires as well by height. And beginning with the shortest, place it into A4. Continue on as specified in the wiring diagram. Next, make room for the piezo buzzer on A5. Make sure the side with the plus on the buzzer plugs into the blue pin. Next, plug in the color knob wires as indicated in the wiring diagram. After wiring is complete, the wire should be given some slack to ensure that it doesn't interfere with the full range of the robot arm. To do this, rotate the shoulder so the knob faces the knob on the base. Then pull the arm backwards as far as it will go. The final step is to organize the lengthy stray wires by placing them behind the pillar in the base. Start with the feedback wires and push them back behind the pillar of the base. The extra long ones can be twisted and then placed in. Then do the same for the servo ribbon cables, wedging them behind the pillar and twisting and wedging the extra long ones. To finish the robot assembly, you'll need the base plate, 4 servo screws, and 8 rubber feet. Peel off the feet and place them on the bottom of the base plate. An arrangement like so: 3 on top, 3 below, and 2 on the side. Secure the base plate on the base and affix it with the 4 provided screws. Congratulations! The assembly of your Mimic robot arm is now complete. You can now install the provided software, if you haven't already, and plug it into your computer using the provided USB cable. The software will guide you through the process of flashing a firmware to the robot arm, testing the hardware configuration, and calibrating the servo motors.